Hi everybody, and welcome to Traveling with Russell, and welcome to the center of Moscow, and welcome to an interesting video. We're going to go check out a hospital. It's right behind me. Let's go. The hospital that we're going to go for a walk around is right across the street, and currently it's not open to the public. However, they've got a week of public opening hours where you can come and do a guided tour. So I thought it was appropriate for the channel that I come and do this. Somebody's parked their crispy new white Lada Niva right out front. This is the car I really love, other than a Porsche, of course. And this is a children's hospital that's about to open, I think in the next week or two, depending on when you're watching this video. This was the existing building that it's replacing, and currently they're in the process of moving from one building to the other and opening. This is actually the main entrance right here from the street, and then we're gonna go and have a walk around this place as a tram goes right by. Very good timing. Thank you, Mr. Tram driver. There is a map right out front of the actual hospital itself, and it's called Children's State Clinic Hospital of St. Vladimir. And the other buildings around us here have different wings of the hospital, but this specifically is a children's hospital. And hopefully we can see a few of the different rooms inside. I'm not sure what the tour entails until I go on it. However, from reading the map here, you've got all the different entrances and check-in, intensive care, clinic and diagnostic department. So everything is under the one roof. Now that I've got a little bit closer to the building, it doesn't quite fit in the frame. However, it's a very interesting looking hospital. It looks almost like a modern apartment building in a way. And with the blue skies today, it looks just as nice. Now, the actual entrance that I'm going to go down is down the street right here. However, if you were to come here by ambulance, there is the actual drive-through area where the ambulances would come from the main gate and go in to the undercover area just there. I do find it very interesting that the signs are in Russian Cyrillic and English. And of course, this is a brand new hospital. It is literally in the last days of it being ready. Children's playground at the back. Gravity blood surgery. It's interesting how they translate some of the words, but it all makes sense if you're a doctor or a nurse, I'm sure. The building is very nice, very modern looking at the same time. Of course, we can see what was previously here. And this is a very classic style of construction in Russia, this panel construction. I'm making this video on a Friday afternoon, and school's finished for most of the kids. And I think also some of the local schools are bringing the kids here on excursions as well. And of course, lots of parents with kids. Everybody wants to come and see a brand new hospital, and also to be able to go behind the scenes and see some of the areas that really wouldn't be open to the public in normal operation. If you are watching this video and it came up on your recommendations, I hope you find it interesting. If you do, give it a like. And I'm an Australian who lives in the Moscow region, and I make videos about everyday, normal, typical things. And I think a hospital is as typical as it comes anywhere in the world. And I think it's interesting that they opened it to the public before the grand opening as well. So let's go and check it out. So my plan is to actually follow the tour that they're doing. However, I'm just going to stay behind a little bit to try to show you a little bit easier the areas. Coming inside the lobby here, there's actually parking for prams. And then this is the main lobby. Now, I will always talk about this a lot because it's quite interesting the use of balloons when there's a grand opening. And if anybody wants to know who is the richest man in Russia, it's the gentleman who sells the balloons to all of the different companies and businesses that open somewhere because there is a lot of balloons here. So when you come in, there is actually a couple of different checkpoints or reception areas, and eventually there'll be a small cafe right here or a seating area to relax, have a coffee. So almost everything is ready except opening, of course, and then all of the nurses and doctors and specialists are moving over from the old wing to the new wing slowly. And then also there is signage everywhere, and again in English and Russian, so it lets us know where we can walk towards, or at least know where to go as part of the tour. So I think this might be the main counter right here if you come in and aren't sure where to go. There's a little play area as well. And then it's probably hard to see. There's this middle atrium right here, and then lots of windows coming into this middle part of the area. And then you can then go off to take the elevators to go to the different parts of the hospital as well. Again, more balloons. The actual tour that they're hosting is showing the different points of the hospital, and we are going to roughly do it a little bit in reverse. However, there is a check-in area when patients come to the hospital, and part of that entails the area where the ambulance drop-off was, and then treatment rooms, MRI. So there is quite a lot to take in. Now, of course, if you're coming here as a visiting family member or as a patient, perhaps you wouldn't be really noticing all these different things that we're walking through. You've got here one of the MRI rooms. Now, I will get things wrong, so you're welcome to correct me if I'm saying something wrong. I think this maybe is for the x-rays. One thing I will point out, or where I see it, is where there might be some branding, or at least the manufacturers. So there's the room in here where the, is it radiographer? Is that the name? Would be. And of course all the equipment, also everything set up to plug in for things like oxygen and air and things like that. Of course for hygiene. And then it now looks a little bit more children's hospital-like as we come down the wing right here. Coming into one of the different rooms. Now, when patients are coming here, either by ambulance or other means, this is their first point of contact. So being that it's a children's hospital, everything is set up for children from 0 to 18 years of age. Now, the actual walking tour, they're actually explaining all these steps and all these things. However, if I just lag behind a little bit, it's easier. Mind array. So for anybody that's a nurse or, I guess, carer, doctor, maybe some of these items look very normal and they're very standard. Of course, things like the curtains, it's all exactly what you would see. But this is the very latest and very newest hospital. So there is also a medical post here. So I imagine around the clock is where the actual nurses sit for taking care of the patients. And let's move on. So this lower level here is mostly where people are coming to do the check-in. So there's another desk right here. And patients would actually come from outside through this door, which at the end of the tour we'll actually see that part. So, and then all the different rooms as we walk through. So the actual tour itself is showing some of the main points of the hospital. There really isn't a need to see every part of it. Patient consultation rooms, treatment rooms, and it's a very big building. It probably doesn't look it maybe on camera, but the amount of rooms, the amounts of treatment rooms is really a lot. Again, signage, head of department, senior nurse, so I imagine there's also quite a lot of officers down here as well. And then one of the characters, so part of this tour, there is actually some characters that are doing a show for the kids, and it's talking about healthcare and kids coming into hospital to make it more interesting for the tour. Then we come back around again to the main reception area here. We've actually made our way in the elevator up to the top floor, or the 6th level. And as I just walk a little bit further behind, so there's some different areas here: anesthesiology, operating rooms, anesthetists, pathomorphology. I don't even know what these words are. I can't even pronounce them in English. However, the hospital itself is set up with pretty much every possible specialist room, specialist doctors, nurses, and I wouldn't want to come here without the map, or I'd definitely get lost. And we're going to head off this direction. You can just see the tour, so I'm just lagging behind a little bit to make filming a little bit easier. So I just explained a little bit about the intake of patients. So the actual hospital has what they call a traffic light system, and depending on your need for care, either if you're able to come in as a patient walking into the hospital, or if you're coming in here by ambulance for emergency care, there's different check-in desks, which we saw downstairs, and that's how they decide on the care that you're going to be given immediately when you come into the hospital. Part of the tour, which is really interesting for me, is to come into one of the operating rooms. Now, the actual place, of course, is brand new, so of course all of the surgical equipment isn't all here. However, they've got a lot of the equipment already in place. So part of the tour as well, the person that's hosting the tour is either a doctor or nurse here at the hospital, and they're talking about the equipment and the different things that they can do, and of course making it engaging for the kids at the same time. Mind Ray. And then over here we know very well, I think, Zeiss. Actually, my glasses that I wear are Zeiss glasses. And then everything here with these robotic machines, climate controlled, of course. And then I saw this a little bit earlier. They've got this system here, which I think is possibly a way to move things around the hospital. If anybody knows what this does, it is super interesting. The Schmechburger. What does that thing do? So there is actually a couple of different operating rooms, or theaters, I think is the correct terminology. So they've got this pre-op room, and then you come in to another one of the operating theaters. This has got quite a lot more machines and everything built out right here. And I'm curious, for anyone that might work in a children's hospital, how does this look or compare? Now, of course, this is not in operation right now. It's a couple of weeks away, I think, at the best. And this is the latest possible technology. There's also interactive screens on the back wall right there. There's a computer built into the wall. Sony monitors. These lights that I always remember from when you go to the dentist. This is amazing. As you walk around the different rooms and the different corridors now, there is quite a lot of areas that are roped off, of course, to follow the guided tour. And then on the wall here, medical gas alarm. So this is actually showing the different types of oxygens, carbon dioxide. So of course, being that it's the operating room's right next to us here, they need to keep control of everything. We've now moved down to the second floor, and each of the different levels have different parts of the hospital and different specialist areas as well. So this walkway here leads to the other side of the atrium where we started, and then we're going to head off around to the right. Actually, we might just see the map right here because it gives you a little bit of a better idea. Clinical and diagnostic laboratories, nephrology department. So there is literally hundreds of rooms on each floor. We're just seeing a brief walk around of it. Endoscopy department, vascular surgical department, and then also down this corridor, some of the patient rooms as well. So we'll follow this corridor along. Of course, bathrooms, and then there is actually a area here, or a quiet room, I think might be the best way to describe it. So there is one area here for the kids, so perhaps if parents are coming with other children to see children that are in hospital, they can leave them here at these little playrooms. And then let's see if this door is open. There is also a parents' rest area here as well. So a little mini kitchen, make a coffee, put something in the fridge if you need to. And then on each of these floors there is a medical post, or I think a nurse's station is what they call it. And then also more signage here, so down to the wards. That's what they call wards. And then there's another interactive point right here where they put some music on and talk with the kids. So it's really fun. So it makes the tour more interesting, I think. As I'm doing this tour, I'm curious, would your local hospital to go to this extent and offer free tours? Would they have characters that are talking about healthcare to the kids? Is this just in Russia, or is this a normal thing if you go to your local hospital that's got an opening? I'm really interested to know that. They do have a little bit of music playing, obviously to make it more interesting. And then there is a couple of the patient rooms, and we're going to go into room number 3 here. So of course, a little bit different decor inside. And then the beds right here. Of course, this is nothing unusual or different. However, coming into a brand new hospital is really what makes it, for me, very interesting to see, and I think for everybody to see as well. Actually, these windows are open out onto the garden area downstairs. And then somewhere for them to put their clothes and shoes and things like that. And then also the bathroom area. So toilet, shower, heated towel rail. Of course, you know I do apartment tours. Also the emergency call cable right there. The actual different patient rooms or rooms are set up depending on the age of the child. So this particular room is set up for children under 7 years of age. And then the other room that we just were in was from 7 till 18 years of age. And then this has actually got the divider there. Pretty sure the kids would want to see each other if they can. All sorts of buttons, Malvestio. And of course the same thing again with things like the oxygen, cold points. Television again on the wall. Actually we can see out to the other building through here. Even a nice comfy chair there for mum and dad to relax on. Of course, it's not usually the best of times when you're bringing kids to hospitals, but they've got to make it as comfortable as possible. Okay, so the bathroom here is set up a little bit differently. However, quite similar, but they've got the lower chair for the shower, which is nice. And then I think also perhaps the toilet is set down as well. As I walk down this corridor, so there is, of course, multiple rooms, all the way down this corridor and then the corridor behind me. And then, so the signage leading to other areas, isolation room, and different wards as well. I think that's the right word. I'm sorry to any of the nurses, doctors and carers that use different wording. So there's rooms that go the whole way down this corridor. So you can see again from the map just how many rooms there are, so combined with treatment rooms and the different wards and patient rooms. There's a lot. Now, this might be interesting or not. Now, actually, part of the tour, we're going to go down the staircase right here, just because of the route that we're taking. Now, I have a very nice friend who's a subscriber of the channel who's from Italy. And I just want to point out that the doors are from Italy. Very interesting. Of course, this area here would only be used in emergencies and perhaps by the employees to come in and out of the different wings of the hospital. They've got central heating in here. Interestingly, it's raised up off the floor as well, which you don't generally see in a lot of buildings. And I just noticed here on the handrail, they've got a sticker, and it's also in Braille as well, letting you know what level you're on. So of course, imagine that's designed around if there's a blackout at the hospital or the lights go out, you can still find your way, or of course, for blind people as well. So there is all of the hospital covered by monitoring and cameras. And let's keep on going outside. This is the undercover area where the ambulances enter, which we saw from back at the start of the video. And the tour is going to take us in here to show the ambulances. And this was the street where I started the video. And essentially, the ambulances would drive in through the main gate and then straight in here, straight undercover, and then you would go then into the emergency care intake. It's gone a bit cloudy. I hope it doesn't rain today. Just taking a step back, we're only seeing a small percentage of the whole hospital, and they're showing obviously some of the main important things that we would associate with coming into hospital. And the actual tour itself is really designed for parents and kids to come and see some of the behind the scenes, and also to feel more comfortable if you were to come to a hospital. Now, this particular one is a public hospital, and it's completely free to come to this hospital, and you just need to bring your regular documents like your passport or birth certificate, and there is no cost to come to this hospital because it's funded by the government and the administration here in Moscow. There is, of course, private hospitals in Russia which you can go to, and private clinics. However, this is a public hospital, and this is the latest hospital in the Russian Federation once it opens. I really do hope you're finding this interesting. For me, it is super interesting to do this tour, and I really want to thank a few of my subscribers for letting me know about this, particularly Vitaly, who is also part of my Telegram group, which you're welcome to join. And he recommended and suggested that I have to come here, especially when there's these opportunities to come as part of public tours. It's really not as simple as just walking in here with a camera, so I'm really appreciative of my subscribers. Thank you so much. I seem to have lost my tour. They've gone ahead of me a little bit, but it's no problems at all. So this is something that I have shown in other videos, particularly when I've gone to some of the car and vehicle expos. And this is the very famous Gazelle. This is actually a brand of vehicle. This is the newest model as well. And there's actually some of the paramedics here who are showing us some of the equipment inside the ambulance. And the one thing that I have found interesting is to see things like this. Now, I've had the ambulance come to my apartment for my wife at one point, and where the ambulance specialists or paramedics, they actually bring this to your room or your house, and they administer care via these vials, which just remind me of the movies and Russian television. So they're doing the little speech here every 10 minutes. But this is modern Russian ambulances, and I wonder if perhaps they're also a Dynamo fan as well.
Dynamo Moscow.
Yes. So I just need to be a little bit quiet because I don't want to disrupt them doing their speech. The actual guided tours that they're doing are every 10 minutes, and my group went ahead of me, and then I stayed back, and the next group has already caught up because I was actually just chatting to one of the ambulance drivers, and super interesting people. I mean, really, these are the backbone of medical care, along with everybody that works in this hospital. And, you know, we need them, we rely on them, and we appreciate them a lot. I seem to have lost my group, so I'm caught in between a couple of different groups, and I want to try to see a little bit more in the back here, in between the groups. So the gentleman that's hosting these, and there's a couple of different people, are the employees that work on the ambulances and administer the care. And what they want to do is actually talk about the different technologies that they have on board, because a lot of people probably haven't seen it or interacted with it. So there's the defibrillator here. They've got a machine here for administering the CPR. Also a ultrasound machine right here as well. And of course they're doing the explanation because people want to know more. They want to understand as much as possible. And just like me, we want photos of the ambulance as well, because it's very interesting. We see these on the road in Moscow. We know they're out there and they're doing amazing work. And I'm just going to point right in the back here before the next group comes through. I just want to give mention to the lady here that's giving this tour. She has blonde hair. She's a doctor who is part of the ambulance care in Moscow, and she's very amazing in her explanation of everything. Also, she speaks very good English as well. And if she might happen to see this video, I just want to say thank you for explaining some of the basics, because I was saying that they use the word paramedics as a term of explaining about the people that work on ambulances, but in Russia they have other words that explain it. So coming around the back here, so we can see the side of the building, and again, just the modern look to it. We are in a very old part of Moscow at the same time as well. So you can see some of the other buildings off in the distance. And there's one last part of the tour that we can get to see just here. So I've probably come into the loudest room of the whole hospital, and this ending part of the tour actually has some interaction with some of the nurses and staff here at the hospital, and they can teach you a few things and learn and understand about the different things that they do here. There's a lady here that's set up to do the injections and teaches you how to use the needles and find the veins. There's one talking about doing the heart rate, also showing you CPR. Now, of course, this isn't a course, it's just a basic few minutes. However, they show you some of the techniques and things that you need to do, and both on teenagers or young adults, and then on babies and kids. And a lot of these people that you see here are mums, parents, and then there is a little bit of the future or the current of surgeries, and of course we all want to have a play on these machines. However, they've got the robots and the cameras to show about how they're doing microsurgery and keyhole surgery. And there's also a machine here that's got the imaging and the 3D imaging from doing, I guess, x-rays or radiology. I'm trying to understand it, but it's really very fascinating to see it up close and try to kind of understand. So they're showing basically the machines that they use, and then the monitors. And this is actually a, I guess, 3D X-ray machine, and it's able to do an image of the entire body, and then they can zoom in and actually look at the organs. This is the latest technology that you're going to find in a hospital. I really do like the way they do these sorts of things, and in Moscow they have expos and events and different conferences that you can attend that talk extensively about the healthcare in Russia and how modern it is. And I think coming to these sorts of events, you see it firsthand and you see it up close, and you can understand a little bit more, because there's a lot of people who are afraid of hospitals and to come to them, and always worry about what care you're given. But you know, this is really something else. This machine here, where it's showing the actual full body, and then how it can show things like the veins and the arteries. It's really quite interesting, because the whole tour of the hospital is all very quiet, and of course we're all listening to the guides. And then this last room right here, of course, when everybody's in the same room at the same time and everybody's seeing the machines and want to get involved, it's going to be a little bit louder, but it's no worries. I think this reflection through the window, and of course the sun setting and blue skies, is a really interesting juxtaposition. Is that the right word? Where you compare the old and the new in the one place, and this brand new hospital. and more specifically children's hospital as well. So it cares for children from birth through to 18 years of age. And a very interesting tour. And the staff that are hosting it are all people that work at this hospital or the neighboring buildings. And I think they're really looking forward to the opening and start administrating help and care to children, babies, infants, and teens. I really hope you've enjoyed this video, and I do want to say a big thank you to the staff that allowed me to be in between the tours, and it's a little bit easier to film. And of course, while they're talking about the different areas and rooms, I don't want to be talking over them, so it's really nice of them to just give me an extra few minutes. And the tours are going on only for 2 more days, and then they're going to start the preparation of the opening of the hospital. So it's really nice to be able to come and see a brand new hospital. And have a look right here. Brand new electric bus parking right outside. So that's super convenient for people who want to come to the hospital by public transport. This was the administration or entrance right here, or it will be once the hospital opens. So you'll actually come through these doors to go inside, unless you're coming in by ambulance. So thank you so much, and I hope it was an interesting tour. These sorts of behind the scenes are interesting for me, and I hope interesting for you wherever you're watching in the world. And to see the modern Russia and the Russia in 2025. Of course, a lot of people think of Russia from the Soviet Union, from the USSR, and it's really not like that. I mean, I live about 50 kilometers from here in the Moscow region, and we have a hospital literally 3 minutes from my house, and we also have a children's wing of that hospital as well, which they opened, I think, only 2 or 3 years ago. So there is modern Russia throughout the entire country, and of course there's always going to be people who still believe that Russia is stuck 50 years ago or 100 years ago. Now, this hospital itself first started 150 years ago. I mean, that's just staggering to think in your head that these grounds were a hospital back then, and now the modern hospitals that this is becoming. So gradually what will happen to this older building is it'll be replaced with another actual hospital wing of this whole territory here. I think there's around about 15 or 20 buildings in this location here. I will put the information in the description of where I am. I'm not sure if there's a website, but for sure the address, if you want to look it up, it's St. Vladimir's Hospital, and I can walk down to Sokolniki metro station, which is not too far down the road, and that's where I'm heading now. So thanks everybody. My secret word, I was trying to come up with one. Now I'm going to say the word helicopter, because when I was chatting to the staff, they were explaining to me that up on the roof there's a helicopter pad, and of course I want to see it, but it's not for the public tours, and no matter who I ask, I can't get up there, and I wish to. So if we see the word helicopter in the comments, it'll be really interesting. Maybe someone from the Department of Health will have me come back just to go on the roof. I just want to see the view as well, not just the helicopter pad, because I think the fact that Sokolniki Park is only a few minutes away from here would be a beautiful view from the top floor. Again, thumbs up if you liked it, post a comment, and then if you want to follow my Telegram, my channel on Telegram, the link will be right here. You can click that and join me in the chat. And if you want to watch an old video, it'll come up right now, and you can keep traveling with Russell. Okay, everybody, I'm off on another adventure. Bye.